background, ignore that. You know what? Let me just move a little bit so that we can talk about this. Okay. So, Zack Snyder's Justice League was an incredible success. Okay? It was an incredible success. And the Snyderverse itself. And when we say the Snyderverse, in this case, we're talking about movies that Zack Snyder filmed and also movies that when he was in DC that he that were part of the roster, the original roster that you know DC was supposed to have, and Zack Snyder was also present there and had sort of a like a overseeing of it. So the Snyderverse, when we talk about the Snyderverse, in this case, Zack Snyder has a different definition of the Snyderverse. For him, the Snyderverse is any film that Zack Snyder's made, right? But for us, when we talk about the DCEU particularly, when we talk about the Snyderverse, we're talking about the earlier movies. We're talking about Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, uh, and Aquaman. Okay, not Justice League 2017. That is not part of the Snyderverse at all. It's not even part of canon now. So when you look at the performance of the movies for the Snyderverse, there's a marked difference in the performance of the movies. In terms of grosses, I mean, it's like a skyscraper looking at flats. Okay, the HamadaVerse has been losing. Shout out to Leroy Khan. What's up, my brother? Hello to you. Great live. I'm at work now. Restore the Snyderverse. Yes, sir. 100%. Um, yeah. So don't forget to smash the like button if you can. Um, so with respect to the Snyderverse, those movies just generated way more money than anything the HamadaVerse has generated. Don't forget to smash the like button, people. Be kind to me, please. So the HamadaVerse begins with Shazam. Okay, that's Hamada initiated project. So we had Shazam, and then we had I believe it is Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then I think the next movie was Wonder Woman, 2021, I believe. I may be wrong. It's Wonder Woman. I think it's Wonder Woman. I think it was Wonder Woman. I think next DC movie was I think it was Wonder Woman. And then after that, we've had the Suicide Squad. So the Hamadaverse has had four movies. Now, Shazam actually made a profit. Birds of Prey made no profit whatsoever. It was no benefit to the company. Wonder Woman made a loss, and the Suicide Squad made a loss. And most recently, Batgirl uh, has been canceled. So that's the Hamadaverse in essence. Now, Walter Hamada also oversees some other movies, but they were not part of the Hamadaverse per se, which was the Batman film, which is standalone. And under Walter Hamada, a film that actually was greenlit before his regime, which is Joker. Joker actually came. Joker was supposed to come in under Zack Snyder's regime, but it's not. It's a standalone film as well. It's a solo film. That was with Todd Phillips. Hamada never saw the necessity to have a Joker film. Um, Tommy Emmerich felt the same way. They didn't fund that film as it was supposed to be funded, and so as a result of that, we ended up with Joker raking in over $1 billion, being heavily criticized by critics and by people, but winning Academy Awards. That's how good that film was. Um, so Joker is not really a Hamada film, but the Batman is. He greenlit the Batman. It was supposed to be Ben Affleck's movie, but as we all know, Jeff Johns uh, messed up Ben Affleck, and Warner Brothers messed up Ben Affleck with the Justice League movie. Anyway, moving on. So ultimately, in the end, what we have is we have a series of films from the Snyderverse that ends with Aquaman film. Even though the Aquaman film was also tampered by the studio, I believe they interfered with James Wan's vision to some degree, and James Wan just went with it. But ultimately, in the end, um, Aquaman made $1 billion. Now, let me show you how profits went. And thanks to Suraj Singh from Facebook, he put up some numbers and it was really good to see. And I think I put this also in the community section so you guys can go check it out. Man of Steel, I think, made $4.42 million profit, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Leroy Kong again. I want more Henry Cavill and Batfleck. Shout out to you, brother. All right, don't forget to smash the like button. Please show me some love. Smash the like button. All right, anyway, I was saying that $42 million profit. Of course, we're not considering all of the tax write-offs and all of the other stuff that they got from advertising. And then the next movie was Batman v Superman. Interestingly enough, Batman v Superman actually made over $100 million profit for the company. So that's interesting. I mean, they were shooting for 1.5 billion. They wanted for that movie, and it undershot. So it made like close to a billion when all said and done. About $873 million, almost $900 million. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. And then, in addition to that, then we had Suicide Squad, which grossed in a profit. Actually, was even more profitable. It made, I believe, it made somewhere around 100 and something $million profit for the company. So even though they sabotaged David Ayer's vision, it still raked in a ton of money. And then after the Suicide Squad, we had Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman raked in close to $200 million profit. That's crazy. And then we had Aquaman, which raked in over $200 million profit. It was a more than that, almost $300 million profit, and I believe it was a $1 billion movie. I think the highest grossing DCU movie today. And then that's it. Now we don't talk about Zack Snyder's We don't talk about Justice League movie of 2017, which was a flop. That was, again, once the studio interferes with a movie, it does not live up to the potential. And in the case of Justice League 2017, I believe that the regime that was there was really trying to give Zack Snyder a bad name because his name was on the movie, not Josh Whedon's. And they really, I mean, brought out an atrocity of a movie, and it was just horrible. Okay. But the critics and the bloggers were saying, that the pivot was a good pivot, whatever. Anyways, that is the Snyderverse. So the Snyderverse was a very profitable and becoming more profitable universe. In fact, DC toys at the time were selling more than usual, the Batman toys particularly, and also DC Comics had come back to the forefront, and I think they had Rebirth and all of that stuff that was going on. And the DC Comics, particularly the Batman comics, were doing very well. This is when DC was actually shining. Yes, Marvel was there, but DC was on a tremendous trajectory to rise and take over the scene. In fact, for a period of time in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, DC actually outsold Marvel Comics. DC Comics were doing very, very well. They outsold Marvel Comics, and they were at the pinnacle because of the Batman stuff, and then what Zack Snyder was doing with Batman v Superman and all that stuff. It was really taking prominence. And then the Wonder Woman movie just went to another level. So DC was just going from level to level to level when it comes to money. In terms of the critics, not always liked by the critics. Critics was still panning some of the movies and really not really. But nobody cared because everybody was buying the movies. Then, change of regime. And the first sign of bad things to come was when they tampered with the Justice League movie. We were amped. I mean, I could not tell you how crescendoed. People didn't think that Justice League was not going to make more than under $1 billion. Nobody was thinking that. Nobody. Okay? Zack Snyder had hyped up that movie to the point at which people were dying to see it. I mean, it was a frenetic thing. Yeah, the haters were hating, but it was so frenetic that the excitement for that movie was ridiculous. Okay? As you all know, Zack Snyder can hype you up for a movie. Really hype you up, right? So, the level of anticipation for that movie was crazy. And then they dropped a dud on us, right? Warner Brothers. But the thing about it is that When you look at the SnyderVerse, the excitement for the SnyderVerse, the passion, and this is why we have right now Restore the SnyderVerse movement. This is why we had Release the Snyder Cut movement. People were so passionate, and it was a lot of people who were passionate. They were talking about a vocal minority. No, this was a tremendous amount of people and a lot of DC. And again, it's a blessing in disguise that the SnyderVerse was kind of taken from us, because in this drought season, we realized what the alternative to the SnyderVerse was. And now we look at the HamadaVerse. So enter in Shazam. Now Shazam is actually a scheduled Snyder movie, but it was under Walter Hamada, smaller budget. Um, so the idea was to make more standalone movies that are not necessarily connected to the universe, even though Shazam was somewhat connected to the universe. Of course, the director for Shazam, David Sandberg, is a devotee to Zack Snyder. He loves Snyder stuff. And he deliberately continued from Batman v Superman with Shazam. Um, and when I look at, and he usually did horror movies. But anyway, uh, when I looked at Shazam, Shazam did well for a small budget movie. But you got to understand something. You're not moving the needle. Okay, so you make a profit. Low budget movies can make a profit, right? I think Shazam did like, I think maybe 3x, something like that. It made about twice the amount that it was to produce. Low budget movie. The problem with that is, yes, you make about 40 something, 50 something $million, which is kind of like Man of Steel, on a low budget, and that's good as in terms of profit. But you're not moving the needle. What I mean by that is, to keep longevity, you have to have interest, and the interest in the first Shazam movie. Would there be that interest for the second Shazam movie? You understand what I'm saying? So that's the question. And to show you how much of a dud things started to go from movie to movie, the second movie was a box office flop. It was Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn. And that movie did not do well at all. And this is before COVID. It struggled at the box office. And that's because what Walter Hamada was doing, even though quite a lot of money was pumped into that movie, I think it was about 100 and something $1 million was pumped into that movie. But even so, that movie, okay, first of all, it's a rated R movie. If you're a rated R movie, you got to go all out. You can't be saying Harley Quinn doesn't kill, because Harley Quinn kills in the comics. You got to go all out. You can't have her shooting rubber bullets and shit like that. No, she's killing. Let her kill. Okay? Now, so the Harley Quinn movie was dialed back. And then on top of that, they were trying to push a social warrior justice kind of program, feminism kind of shit, to hate on a guy or whatever. And then on top of that, the Harley Quinn movie had sappy jokes in it. So it was a recipe for disaster. And I believe the studio again interfered with the director, who was trying to do the Harley Quinn movie. And they said, no, you can't have no blood in this movie. You got to dial this back. No, you can't have that. So what we ended up with is a supposedly rated R movie, which was dialed back to PG-13. Yeah, shout out to Leroy Kong. Yes, sir. Leroy Kong says, I got to get back to work. Always great live. Take care. Yeah, sure, no problem. Sure, no problem, Leroy. So what we ended up was a mess of a movie where the director really wanted to go all out, and the studio is holding the director back. Okay? Because if you're going rated R, you better be edgy. You know what I'm saying? And Harley Quinn is she's not a hero. She's an anti-hero. So the line's always blurred between what she does and what she doesn't do. And from what we knew from the Suicide Squad, she helped Joker kill Robin. So she doesn't have her qualms killing people. Okay? All right, so going back to Harley Quinn, she's a lovable character, but she's vicious. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so from the Harley Quinn movie, then we move to Wonder Woman, 1984, and they get more sappy, and they get more Marvelish, and now the action is shit, right? That movie makes a loss for the studio, okay? It is a loss for the studio, just like Justice League 2017. Between those two movies, which is worse? I don't know. But those are really bad movies. Harley Quinn movie was supposed to be rated R. For a rated R movie, it was terrible. Okay? So now Walter Hamada is 3 for 3 in flops. Hamada was came on the scene after Justice League 2017. Uh, then we had the Suicide Squad, big old thing, blah 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 blah, just killing all kinds of things in Suicide Squad. James Gunn's doing it. Some cringy jokes inside of that thing. It's just very cringe. Nobody goes to see it in the cinema. They blame COVID for Wonder Woman and for the Suicide Squad. Yet, strangely enough, Godzilla vs. Kong's doing very well. A series, Fast and the Furious is doing well. A series, the Marvel movie is doing well in there. But they're saying it's COVID. We all know it's not COVID. It's their plan to air the movie and then have it streaming. And on top of that, people are not going to go to the movie if they stream it, right? It's kind of like saying, all right, we have this movie available on DVD and Blu-ray, or you can go into the cinema. Which one do you want to do? You want to watch it on Blu-ray, or you want to go to the cinema? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of really stupid. You know what I mean? So that's what they did. Anyway, those movies flopped. Okay, they flopped and they flopped hard. Patty Jenkins was angry that they were streaming her movie. Christopher Nolan was angry that they streamed his movie. He wanted it in the cinema. He didn't want it. It's like I said before, it's kind of like saying, "Do you want to see this on Blu-ray, or are you going to go watch it in the cinema?" And some people recommend, well, this is best to watch on Blu-ray, meaning it's not cinema. It's not cinema worthy. So it was kind of stupid what Warner Brothers did. But anyway, case in point is they flopped. So Hamada's right now on if I'm not mistaken, he's on a 3 DCEU movie flop streak. And in addition, a lot of movies, Christopher Nolan's movies and several other movies flopped at the box office because of the stupid policy that Warner Brothers had. So it's just a sequence of incompetence by that regime. And this is the regime, Kevin Suchiara and all these assholes, who was criticizing Zack Snyder's Justice League and saying, it's not good, and it's awful, and blah, blah, and it needs to cut down, it needs to be shorter, and all that. These are the assholes. Because the focus in Warner Brothers at the time is to get bonuses for putting out movies. So you put out a movie, you get a bonus for that. The focus was not on performance, and the better you perform is the more you get. They got bonuses just for putting out movies. So this is why, Walter Hamada's sticking around for Black Adam, because he wants to get his bonus. It's really stupid. The system is really dumb. But Kevin Suchiara, when he came on the scene, he basically fucked up Warner Brothers. And been fucking up Warner Brothers for the longest while. Now he's out of the scene. Jeff Johns is out of the scene. These guys just not good for Warner Brothers. It was never good for DC. All right, so so Walter Hamada's HamadaVerse significantly is inferior in terms of bottom line, in terms of money and currency earned, to the SnyderVerse. SnyderVerse was actually raking in great profits. Their grosses were bigger. The brand was stronger and everything. So when we talk about Walter Hamada, Toby Emmerich, Jeff Johns, John Berg, that era, and Sarnoff even, it's just a horrible era. Thank God Greenblatt and company was able to greenlight the SnyderVerse in that caustic, toxic era. And because of them, what's the guy's name? I forgot his name right now, who came into Warner Brothers and performed at Warner Media. That guy sort of helped for it to happen, even though he was a new guy on the block. He didn't really know what was going on. He got kind of manipulated and by the people who were there, and kind of got screwed over. I think Jason Keeler was the guy's name. Well, they got rid of Jason Keeler, these disgusting manipulated people. But they can't get rid of David Zaslav, because David Zaslav is kicking people's asses left, right, and center if you're not performing. By the way, shout out to David Zaslav on getting the distribution rights for Lionsgate. So, god damn, David Zaslav is making moves right now. He's consolidating like crazy. So he's got the distribution rights for Lionsgate Films, MGM, and he also has now Warner Brothers. So shit, he got libraries like crazy now. He got content like crazy. He's becoming a powerhouse. Um, so shout out to him on that. And I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. I have to go see Morbius. By the way, I heard Morbius was a good movie, even though critics panned it and stuff. People like Morbius, and I actually saw pieces of Morbius, and I'm like interested in seeing it. And it looks like Jared Leto did a pretty good job on it. But my point being, David Zaslav is going back to the trajectory of what was. And I think it's a very good thing. The performance of the Snyderverse. Let's also talk about the performance of the Snyder Cut, because the Snyder Cut came out. Warner Bros. Was keeping it under tabs. The trades were saying all kinds of shit. It wasn't performing. As soon as David Zaslav came on the scene, you realize the Snyder Cut, the Snyderverse, the Snyder Cut. He said he loved the Snyder Cut. And the performance of the Snyder Cut, I believe the Snyder Cut did very, 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 very well. I don't know the exact numbers and figures. Suraj said it was like 657 million it made, but I think that's the theatrical cut. I think they're mixing it up, those figures, with the theatrical cut. But what I could tell you is, I reported on this when I just most recently looked at Migu streaming service, which is one of the major 5G streaming services in China, owned by the Chinese government. I found out that Zack Snyder's Justice League on Migu had 500, over 500 million, half a billion downloads. And you have to pay to download on Migu. It's cheap, very cheap, but nonetheless, you have to pay to download. So over half a billion downloads, which is really, really high. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. And if China supported that movie so heavily, and then we know the UK, they did their thing. We know that in the US, was crazy numbers as well on HBO Max and so on. I believe that, and of course, when we look at digital purchases, I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is still. I'm not too sure for Google Play. I'll go check it out. But it was in the top 10 up to, I believe, 2 weeks ago. It was a top 10 selling digital release. And remember, this movie's an old movie, and it's like a second take of a movie that already came out in 2017. We're talking about this movie's performing against movies from this year, 2022. So that's pretty crazy, pretty remarkable. We don't know what the DVD. We knew it topped DVD and Blu-ray sales when it came out, and it stayed like that for about a month and a half. For about 6 weeks, it was topping DVD and Blu-ray sales, and we saw that time and time again. In the UK, it was just killing it in the UK. So I have no idea how well it did, but I'm pretty sure it did some tremendous numbers when it comes to DVD and Blu-ray sales and also digital releases. So I know it did tremendous, tremendous, tremendous numbers, because once you include China in that, I think you're really starting to, and this is why, this is why, and remember the investment into it was about 70 million. Let's say 80 million was invested into to making sure this movie came out. So did it make back its 80 million? Fuck yeah, it did. Hell yeah, it made back 80 million, and it started making profit. And the thing about it is, if I'm not mistaken, the Justice League movie that came out theatrically, it made a loss. I think it made a loss of about, I think it was 67 million or something like that. So I believe that the Snyder Cut not only covered that, but I think they made a little something on top of that. So I'm pretty sure the Snyder Cut, when all is said and done, made about 200 to 300 million dollars probably in DVD Blu-ray sales, which is really ridiculous, and digital sales, and then all the other sales that it made while in COVID, that when it went across the Migu TV in China. So I'm sure they made maybe a hefty 400, maybe 300, 400 million in sales. Which, when you put that together and you think about the cost of the last movie, I think they actually were able to take care of the deficit for the last movie that the loss that they made. So I think Warner Bros. Definitely profited from it, and this is why I heard David Zaslav saying any high quality top tier movie is not going to streaming. It's going into theaters. This is a great thing he said, because when we think about release the air cut, now release the air cut is going to be released into theaters. That is a cinema quality movie. That's not something to go to streaming. And then when you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League, what David Zaslav is saying, he's really making sense, because that means we can actually, I believe we're going to be able to, in the not too distant future, get the Snyder Cut into theaters. There's going to be a run of the Snyder Cut into theaters, and we're going to see how it does. And goddamn, that thing, that's the whole point. You know, Zack Snyder makes movies for cinema. He doesn't make movies for home release. And oh my God, to see that in IMAX is going to be crazy, because it's going to fill up the entire IMAX screen in a whole different kind of way. So I would love to see that in IMAX. But I know it's going to be probably limited distribution to start with, and then if it does very well, they'll put it into cinemas for another run. And cinemas right now are still on the rebound, so it'd be great to put that into cinemas in the U.S. And if it's doing really, really well, and I pray God it does, then they'll just keep it on into cinemas for a little longer. And this is, I'm telling you, man, if you want to get excitement, and it's so crazy, this is a movie that like has come out a year ago, but if you put it into cinemas, it's a totally different experience. You know, and COVID restrictions are being rolled back even more. COVID's not really a thing right now. Man, God damn it, put that thing into cinemas. Let's go, baby. So I'm believing that after Black Adam, hopefully David Zaslav and they can really move full steam ahead when Walter Hamada is out of the picture completely. I would love to see that. I would love to see, because here's what happens. Zack Snyder's Justice League, remember, Zack Snyder's Justice League promotes The Flash. Zack Snyder's Justice League promotes Aquaman. Okay? So just imagine, those are two upcoming movies. Seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters, and even before Aquaman or The Flash, you again put it into theaters so people can see it in theaters. To couple, you know, so that people will remember, so that when you see Aquaman or you see The Flash, you know, you're hyped for those movies. I mean, there's just no, I don't understand why a company wouldn't do that, because you want hype. And if the hype's around Zack, you take the hype, you run with Zack, and Zack is promoting these characters. He's promoting Aquaman, he's promoting The Flash. So that so even if you wasn't going to go see The Flash, you understand what I'm saying? You would want to see The Flash. And then on HBO Max, you rerun Zack Snyder's Justice League religiously. Whenever you get a chance, you run that, you know, you keep that as part of your programming, so they'll amp people up to want to see The Flash, want to see Aquaman. Because you gotta ride Zack as hard as you can, man, and hope that these movies could perform to that level, so people will actually go out and see The Flash, actually go out and see Aquaman, especially if you can get, you know, the first promotional movie of Aquaman, or the first promotional movie of The Flash, you know, not promotional trailer, sorry, of The Flash or Aquaman. When people see it, they're kind of wowed by it. They're like, oh shit, I gotta go see this movie. That's the point behind it. You want people to be excited about your movies, and the only way that's gonna happen is if you go back to Zack. And I think David Zaslav is doing the right thing in respect to that. Anyway, I'm close to the end of my video. I'm only going to take 30 minutes, so we're about to wrap it up. I'm 29 minutes and 28 seconds. All I'm saying to you guys is the SnyderVerse was way more successful than this previous regime. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. SnyderVerse is the way to go. We're now all decided on that. I hope that all of DC can be all in. I know there's going to be some contrarians. There's going to be some people who are paid to print shit that doesn't make no sense. But ultimately, in the end, the SnyderVerse is the way to go. All the facts and figures and money points in that direction. So I do believe David Zaslav is going full steam ahead with the SnyderVerse right now. And hopefully we can see somewhere in the distant future a Cyborg film, because I'm really looking forward to Cyborg. Cyborg is one of those characters. Of course, I want to see a Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, but the Green Lanterns are kind of earmarked already. We know a Green Lantern film is going to come out eventually, and then you can have all these side things after the big movie lands. That's what I don't understand how Warner Bros. Was thinking before, but the Warner Brothers now is really making sense. And it's not just Warner Brothers; it's going to be Warner Brothers and MGM or Lionsgate. So shit, now we really cooking with gas. We're gonna have all kinds of things, and oh wow, man, David Zaslav is really consolidating, and he's really going. He's going big time. He's going big time to dominate the movie industry. So we'll see how it goes, man. We're gonna see how it goes. Uh, you guys have a good one. I am out of here. I'm Christ. I'm disciple. Before I go, I want to leave you guys with, of course, Scripture Boy. I'm gonna leave you guys with a piece of scripture. So one of the things that I never really got to flush out with you guys yet was uh, was Martha Kent's story on Superman. So I told you guys that Martha Kent, she was somewhat she had a fear that she would lose Clark, whether it was to the government, whether she lose him in battle, human beings would turn against him and kill him. The same fear that Superman's actual biological mother had, Laura L, who thought they would kill him, and Jor-El said, "How? He'll be a god to them, right?" And the same kind of concern she has for her son, because Martha Kent, Clark is her son. She raised him. She sacrificed a lot to raise him, and for her, that's her boy. That's her son. Um, and likewise, she was afraid she would lose him, and her fears actually were actualized. She actually lost him. But this is where this piece of scripture comes in. Weeping will endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. The story wasn't over. That's why I didn't get to tell you guys. The story wasn't over. Martha Kent ended up getting back her son. Superman was brought back to life. And she was like, "Is it really you?" "It's really me, Ma." Right? And that's what Justice League did. So Batman v Superman was a story of heartbreak. And what this tells us, what the story of life, what it tells you is sometimes your greatest fears become actualized. Sometimes you have to face your greatest fears. Sometimes the worst possible scenario. My mother died of cancer. She was afraid to die of a big illness. She used to speak about, "I'll be very sick." And she had the most painful form of cancer. She had pancreatic cancer, right? So she was in great pain up to her last breath. And I was there with her up to her last breath. I saw her breathe her last breath. And basically what I'm saying to you guys is sometimes the worst case scenario, which you're afraid of facing, happens. But it's for you to overcome that fear. You know, there was a little like promo thing before Justice League came out where you were hearing the voice of Lois Lane. And she said that how can we have courage and faith if we don't have darkness and fear? And as Joseph Campbell said, and as the Bible says, out of the darkness comes the light. That's what Joseph Campbell said. It's at the lowest point. There's a saying that goes, it's the darkest point just before the dawn. And in another, I just quoted scripture, "Weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning," right? If you can make it through the night, right? And furthermore, there are many, many sayings like this. Everyone has to go through a crucible of fire. We have to be purged by fire. meaning we have to go through trials, tribulations, difficulty. All right? No one is exempted from that. But for me as a Christian, I believe that in the resurrection, I will see my mother again, though she will not be what she was on earth. She'll be something else. But mind you, there's something bigger than that. And so what we are to be, you know, I understand that, and that's where I have my hope. Similarly, like how Superman was resurrected from the dead. Of course, his mother never thought she would ever see him again. But in seeing him again, it was like the greatest joy of her life. Okay? And so what I'm trying to explain to you guys is the story is not finished. How you go out from this life doesn't mean that's it. It's over. If you believe in the story of Superman, pretty much says that if you believe that there's a resurrection of the dead, then there's always hope, even beyond this form of existence that we have now. And that's what I want to encourage each and every one of you guys. And another thing, which is more, it helps people cope a lot better, is I always say, my mother's not exactly gone. A part of her has stayed with me, and she is with me in my memories and in my mind. I can always recall her. I can always bring her to the forefront if I so wish. But the things that have the biggest impact on me are and I believe these are the eternal things, were qualities of her character, which I accepted and I embraced. And when I see those qualities in myself, I remember her. And similarly, with Batman, he remembered how hopeful Superman was in his death. And that's what carried him on. And also his feeling of needing to balance the scales, meaning to bring about justice, meaning he felt like he had a debt to Superman, realizing he was such a good person and that he passed away. And he owed Superman the obligation of continuing what Superman was doing before, inspiring people, bringing hope, and saving the world. So that's why he felt we needed to stand together. We need to pull this team together. In other words, what I'm saying to you guys is, no matter how bad things get, it may be the ultimate nightmare of your life. It may be the worst point of your life. It may be the thing that you fear the most could ever happen to you. That happens. Just remember this. Remember, when you're going through the thing you fear, and you're actually confronting that fear, you're growing as a person. Whether you make it through it or you don't, you're going to grow as a person. And that's the important thing. It's all about growth. It's all about developing as a human being. There's lots of things. I'm such a flawed individual. It's not surprising. I mean, I can't. But even so, there is room for growth, for things to grow. And that is what keeps me going every single day, because I'm very hopeful for the future. I feel very excited for the future because of that. And this is the same thing that drives people forward. If you don't have hope, you're going to become suicidal, and that's when you die. That's when internally you die, and then you're looking to get out of here, a way out. You're trying to find a way out. You're making excuses to find a way out. And I will say to people, one of the beautiful things about life is by sharing each other's experiences, not just the things that you overcome, but sometimes the burdens that you carry. Of course, we don't want to emotionally dump on people. There are people like that, and they're a drag. We're not talking about them. We're talking about sometimes the challenges you have in your life. And I see some people on Twitter share some of their just little snippets of their life and what they're striving with and overcoming. Because some people are extremely successful, but they're still struggling with things in their life. I mean, monetarily or in terms of, the system. They have a job, they're very good at what they do and so on, but they're still struggling with other things. So I'm just saying, all of us as humanity, we struggle. And what I'm trying to say to you guys is that this struggle that we're fighting right now, that we're winning, It had its very low points, and it had its very high points. But through it all, we kept on going through it. We kept on persisting. And of course, our emotions were going up and down all over the place, but we kept with it. This is why I'm so happy to be part of this. Even though I'm not a major player in any way, I'm part of it, and I'm happy to share that with you guys. All right? And I don't care what, you may have a YouTube channel, and it's not seeming to go anywhere, just few people on it. You may have businesses, and it doesn't seem as though anything's going anywhere. It doesn't seem as listen, you may be, it may be your health. Your health may be just getting worse and worse and worse. Whatever it is, sometimes taking a little time to share with other people what you're going through without burdening them. The idea is, in spite of what you're going through, you're hopeful. In spite of what you're going through, you're holding the fort, and you're forging your character, and you're building qualities, and you're learning and growing as a person. This is the point behind it. It's not to burden people, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is the SnyderVerse helped some people get through their stuff. Not everybody. Not even Zack Snyder's daughter, right? Oh, maybe he did. But ultimately, in the end, she lost that battle, okay? But I'm going to tell you something. It ain't over. It's not over for her. It's not over. There's always hope somewhere. I'm not saying she comes back from the dead, necessarily. But what I'm saying is her memories, the good things she's done, the bad things she's done. The memories of her can stay alive, and that can fuel something really beautiful. And that's the point behind these movies, right? Sometimes in absence, as they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Sometimes in absence, you get to treasure something more because now you're focused on it and not on a person or a thing or a singularity, as we say. All right? Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. This is Christ I Am Disciple in the building. Hoping you guys have a blessed day. Hoping you guys have a great time. And we're going to talk more again about the SnyderVerse and this DC thing that's going on. We're going to be entertained, but remember, entertainment isn't anything if you take in something, remember, it's not to just take in, it's to release. So try to release it back, whether it's in the form of art, whether it's in the form of kindness to somebody who you see, whether it's in the form of excitement, you're so excited you want to charge up, you take that energy and you drive it into something maybe creative, maybe something artesian, whatever it is. Take that energy and be a force for good today. I'm going to catch you guys later. I am Christ, I am Disciple. Peace. I'm out.